Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rashid bhai, today we have a guest speaker, Allamah Rashid Madni from Blackburn. Thank you very much for coming today, Rashid bhai, taking some time out of your busy schedule. Allamah Rashid has been teaching the Dars Nizami for a number of years now, I believe. Is it coming up to 10 years?
Yeah, more than that.
MashaAllah.
2012.
2012, so 8 years, and now they teach in Blackburn. Allama Sahab, just before we continue, can you just tell us about your Islamic studies? At what age did you start your Islamic studies and
So
where?
it was, I think it was 1998 when I left the UK for Pakistan and Karachi, where I spent 7 years. I was there from 1998 to 2005. Dars Nizami, that's what I did. And then it was in 2005 that I returned to the UK, and it was actually 2006. Sorry, I said 2012. 2006 that I started teaching Dars Nizami. Since then, so almost 14 years.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Teaching.
Teak. And you studied abroad, you didn't study here at the time. Was that just personal choice, or what made you go abroad to?
Yeah, that was just, I was in college, first year in college, Blackburn College, and I did first idea was studying here in the UK. I remember contacting one or two institutes.
Teak.
So going abroad wasn't the first, plan of action. It wasn't the first idea. So the first idea was trying to stay in the UK and study, but it was just a lack of, not knowing which madrasa. We only had one or two madrasas that did Dars Nizami. I think in Nottingham there was the Jamia Karam Institute. I remember trying to contact them. But yeah, then and even India was a possibility as well. A friend suggested going to India. I almost did that, but instead of going to India, then finally someone suggested going to Pakistan, and that it was meant to be.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. And in regards to the studying aspect, is there any advice that you can give to young people who are wishing to do the Dars Nizami and follow, wishing to be scholars? What advice you should give them when looking at an institute where to take place? Or
yeah, alhamdulillah, back in the day, like I said, in 98, for me it was very difficult. Not many institutes around. Now there's a lot more, people know about Dars Nizami. I didn't even know it was called Dars Nizami. I just I remember being in college and last year of high school and first year of college, just being interested in Deen and wanting to study further. And not really. So when I went initially to Pakistan, it was just learn more. It wasn't. I want to be an alim, or I want to do a 7-year course. I didn't, I wasn't even aware it was called Dars Nizami.
Right.
I thought I'd go, and then if I like it, I'll stay. If I like it for a year, I'll just study for a year and then come back. But I ended up staying there for 7 years. So,
MashaAllah.
but now there's a lot more options, alhamdulillah. Even in our Blackburn, there's at least 2 places that I know that are doing Dars Nizami. We're teaching it ourselves in Blackburn. Me and 2 other colleagues as well here on Randall Street, and then there's Maulana Nizamuddin. I know he's. I'm aware that he's teaching as well, and I'm sure that there's some other ulama, on their own. So it is sad that Dars Nizami is not as developed here as it is in Pakistan or for us locally. But as far as Blackburn brothers are concerned, there's at least 2 or 3 places.
MashaAllah. And the new course will start in September, is that correct?
The new course, the new year,
for the new students. So if anybody is interested or knows anybody who's interested, they do teach. That will be commencing from September, I believe.
September, yeah. And that'll be the 3rd year, yeah. That'll be the 3rd year.
And there's no age limit, is there? Do you have various people of different ages, or?
Yeah, there's a minimum. 16. The minimum is that they finish their school, because obviously, legally they've got to finish all their education. So you can't sort of take them out of school and then put them into Dars Nizami. So that's the minimum. Enough. But there's no maximum.
MashaAllah.
There's no maximum.
So if anybody out there is thinking I'm too old for it, you're never
too old. 35, 40, 50, whatever.
MashaAllah. And do you know of any stories where somebody who is quite old has gone and studied the Dars Nizami?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, still I spent 2012 till just last year, 2019, I was in Bradford. And there we've got, more than 100 students.
Right.
And There, you know, we had one who was over 60 years old. He was an ex-priest, you know,
Mashallah.
brother. He's graduated. He was in that first batch of
Mashallah.
graduating students. That was about 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago. But even now, I'm sure I've seen their students who are like, there's one particular one who's coming in mind. I'm sure he's like 50 years old.
Mashallah. Mashallah.
So yeah, there's quite a lot of old students in Bradford. Yeah.
Mashallah. That's very impressive. The fact that somebody's at that age and still seeking ilm-e-deen, that should be a message for firstly myself and young people that, you know, you're never too old to learn the deen.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? You know, it's never too old, and should always pursue it.
Definitely. And the harder something is, the more ajr you get as well. And even when you study the lives of the Salaf, you know, the Salaf Salihin, the awliya kiram, some of them did start at a very late age. There were many awliya who were like born walis, and they were like, you know, their wilayat was like, you know, very evident from the beginning, and they studied from the beginning. But some people, many scholars started at a later stage in their lives. So you find a lot of examples of that in the Salaf as well.
MashaAllah. So moving swiftly, Rashid bhai, I know we are limited for time. So the next topic I want to speak to yourself about, we've talked about ilm, seeking ilm.
Yeah.
For the Muslim person out there who's, you know, like sometimes you get people who, they can just make it to the masjid on a Friday.
Yeah.
If it's a big night, they'll get to the masjid. Taraweehs, they'll get to the masjid. But other than that, because of their work situation, they might be doing night shifts, they might be nights on taxis, whatever their situation is. Wherever they are, they try to pray namaz. And if some people don't try to pray namaz, how can a Muslim maybe self-reflect, or is there any indicators that one can look at to see how close one is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and secondly to see how strong or weak one's iman is?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of... The first sign would be like, you know, to see how much someone's inclined towards his namaz. And, you know, like, for example, if there's someone who goes a whole week and he's not read the Quran Sharif, or he's missed his namazes, and he's not even regretting that, he's not feeling any remorse, that's not a good sign. You know, because a part of the, like Imam Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi says, well, you know, a sign that your heart is alive is, you know, to be disturbed when, you know, you fall short when you do ibadat. And it's in a hadith sharif as well, isn't it? A Muslim is someone who, when he does something evil, you know, haka fi nafsi, he feels hesitation or like a discomfort in his heart. So that's one sign. If a person's like far from his deen and he's not even feeling remorse over that, that's a sign that his spirituality is quite weak. So it's a good sign for someone to feel restless.
Right.
That's a good sign. For someone to feel like, I'm not doing enough, I've got to do more. That's actually like a sign that, you know, his spiritual, you know, heartbeat is alive, or there's something, you know, you've got a conscience speaking to you. So that is definitely, you know, when you read the books of Tasawwuf, like the Sufis talk about, you know, what are the signs of the mawtul qalb, the death of the heart, or the life of the heart. So not regretting missing out on ibadat, that's a sign of weakness, or the death of the heart, you can call it. And being worried, you know, feeling ashamed, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. And for people, like you said, who are busy, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, wherever they are, you know, just try to, you know, create their work environment, like create an environment wherever they are, their workplace, where, you know, make it such that they're reminded about their deen. If you've got your own office, having a musalla there makes a big difference. Just seeing the musalla just motivates you. You know, if you have that in your power. And even things like, you know, it's all about the iPhone and the iPads today, isn't it? So having a message like on your screensaver, your home screen on the phone, you know, something that reminds you, you know. And my Murshid says, and he's got this himself, like the word maut, you know, on his iPad. So the first thing that you see when you turn your phone on when you turn your iPad on is the word maut. It makes you reflect about death. So the more you reflect about the afterlife, the more active you become when it comes to your deen, reflecting about the afterlife. So having reminders wherever you are, that really helps. Reflecting about death and the afterlife actually makes you active, makes you want to do more, makes you appreciate life, makes you appreciate every second.
And you mentioned there regarding death, and obviously in various hadiths, various ayats, I believe in the Quran, mention death. Is that because death, if one remembers death constantly and not as in the back of his mind, like it's there, you know, like you're always thinking about it, or you constantly know, daily you know that you have the mindset, I might not live till evening, I might not live till tomorrow. That thinking, should that amend a person's actions? Is that like a sign if the one thing, you know what, I'm getting closer to my death day by day? If he has that mindset, should that improve his ibadat?
Definitely, and that's the first step, isn't it? Thinking about death is the first step, and it does improve it. I mean, you're supposed to, there's a hadith sharif that says, whenever you pray namaz, think of it as your final namaz. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that, you know, don't expect to be alive, and if you're in the morning, don't expect to be alive in the evening, and vice versa. So that, I mean, and when you're thinking like that, you know, when you're thinking that this could be my last namaz, so obviously you're thinking I might not get another opportunity, you're going to put all your effort into that, making that namaz as best as you can. You're going to become more humble and more focused as well. And you're going to treat that day, this might be my last day in my life, so you're going to make the most of it. So you actually be more active, you know, rather than waste that time. And use it productively. And like, you know, what's important is that there's the famous hadith in Abu Dawood, Sihasita hadith, when we talk about, you know, why the ummah is weak, the weakness of the ummah, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said to the Sahaba that you'll be excessive in number, but you will be weightless. You'll be like the froth on the ocean, the water. That you'll be huge in numbers, but just like froth on water, it looks, in terms of the size, is vast. Yeah. But it doesn't have any weight.
Right. Like lack of substance, kind of.
Lack of substance. And when the Sahaba asked the reason for that, and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to mention two things: the love of the dunya and disliking death. So even though like death is a subject people think it's like a dull and gloomy subject, but if anything, it makes you more active, makes you appreciate, makes you grateful for what you've got. You know, think that everything we have makes you live in the now as well. Focus on today. Too many people worrying about what happened in the past.
Bilkul.
And or worrying about what will happen in the future. Imam Ghazali talks about, you know, there's like 8 obstructions in ibadat, 8 things that mainly obstruct us, and 2 of them, he says, well, one of those obstructions in worshipping Allah Ta'ala is we're too worried about what's going to happen. Right. Hanaki, the solution to that is, you know, just leave everything, trust Allah Ta'ala, tafweed ilallah. And one of the 8 obstructions in ibadat is stressing too much over what's happened in the past. Stress, problems. Some people just like bury themselves in their past and they don't move forward. They just get stuck in those problems. So when you're thinking about death, one fayda of that is you're thinking about now.
Right.
Today. You're making the most of today. You're not thinking about the future. You're not thinking about the past as well. So it's like the Sufiya say as well, like worrying about the future and stressing over the past is taken away from us the barakat of the moment. So if anything, thinking of death makes you grateful, makes you more mindful. And makes you more active, you know.